I got Lucas McGill here. Tommy Lepore here from Blue Springs South. Brett Morfleet.
Hello everyone, welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast Prep Baseball Talk, powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. We're in full swing, got these spring almost over, we're heading toward the summer, got some great events still. We're going to be out at the Cinco de Mayo Slugfest coming up Cinco de Mayo weekend. There it is. And going to have some fun out there. We'll be out with our cameras in our studio on that Saturday doing the 14U championship game live stream on the Sunday afternoon. So that's in 2 weeks. So we're looking forward to that. But if you haven't checked out Game 7, go to game7baseball.com, get your team registered, check out some of the events there. Today on Prep Baseball Talk, we're going to start off with Mr. Kenny Seifert from Misha. He is the officials executive assistant. Is that correct, Kenny? Did I say that right?
Yeah, assistant executive director and the director of the officials program. There's
Very
a lot
good.
of words in there. Yes.
And we wanted to, I love having Kenny come on the show. It's always a great conversation. And we want to talk officiating because there are still some issues within officiating as far as getting officials. I really like, and if you've seen this, what some of these coaches are doing, especially Coach Eric Goff, before every game, he's taking a picture shouting out the officials before every game. I think we need to do more of that, recognize these guys and the work they're doing. But there's some new things going on there with Misha, and the one thing I wanted to get to first, Kenny, is you guys have an initiative that you're working with high school students. Can you talk a little bit about that program?
Actually, if you're okay with that, I'd like to talk about two things that we're doing with our high schools right now.
Go right ahead.
So the one initiative that you're probably referring to, Brian, is the one that we actually have had in place for basically 7 years now. And that is, in fact, it's rolling up on us pretty quick. On May 8th, our athletic directors, coaches, principals, superintendents across the state, they will get an e-blast from me that will let them know that the window is now open for each school. Basically, the athletic director is the one that has to enter the information. But each athletic director is allowed to enter a graduating male and female for a free registration for the next upcoming school year in any sport or any sports, plural, that they're interested in officiating. We've had that in place for about 7 years. It's gone well. I would like to see it do better. The pattern that we have seen is the schools that are really, really having their games affected because of the officiating shortage, they seem to be a little more motivated to take advantage of this opportunity, as opposed to schools who haven't felt the pain yet. And that's kind of common. But there's definitely a pattern of schools that, and let's face it, usually our bigger city schools are more urban schools because they're taken care of through the local officials associations. Right. As long as umpires and officials are showing up, they don't think there's a problem. It's not a problem until they can't play a game or a game has to be moved, or they're playing a softball or a baseball game with one umpire, which is starting to happen more and more and more. So, but we continue to push that product out there, and it's getting better. The first couple of years, the only people that we involved were the athletic directors. Well, then we found out about 2 years ago that many head coaches had no knowledge of this program. So we included the head coaches because that's probably going to work out better, because the head coach is going to snatch up one of his or her players, take him to the athletic director, set him down and say, we need to enter this kid into the program. And then it's also picked up pace last year when we included the principals and the superintendents. So we're trying to get everybody on the same page and understand the importance of what it is we're trying to get accomplished and how ultimately it affects them as a school district. It doesn't affect our office. It affects them as a school. It affects their kids and their coaches and their school community. So we want to make sure that they understand that.
Very good. And the second program you got, I thought I'd heard this one talking about, well, no, I think it was that one. You're right. So there's another initiative you guys have got going on here that go ahead and
We
let
have
the
another
folks know.
initiative that we just kickstarted this year that is directly related to our schools. There is a online officiating curriculum / course that we have entered into an agreement with. It's called Reps. That's one word, REFREPS. And the phrase that I keep using for this program is, I think it is a complete game changer for officiating overall. We have entered into an agreement. We have 20 schools in our state that have piloted it already this spring. The agreement that we have with Reps is twofold. One, they're giving us 100 free seats. A seat typically costs a Missouri student $45. A normal anybody else, it's $50. But a Missouri student, we've got a deal worked out. It costs $45. But they are giving Misha 100 free seats, and we allocate those free seats however we want. And that's 100 free seats each year. So starting this spring, we found 20 schools to pilot this. Many of those schools have already gone on and purchased many, many, many more seats because their students are starting to fill these classes. And we've also identified our 20 schools that will receive the 5 free seats each for next year, the 23-24 school year. And we have many more schools above those 20 that have already contacted Reps. They've attended a webinar, and they are purchasing seats for their students. And this can be a standalone course. It can be something that you offer a student athlete that is currently in a course. Let's say they are in weightlifting conditioning, and they lift weights on Mondays and Wednesdays, and they condition on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and on Friday is nap day or relax day or rest day or recovery day. You can have them take a course. It's been a complete game changer, in my opinion. We are really excited about it. And here's the beautiful part of it. Anybody, and when I say anybody, I'm not just talking about any student. Obviously, we're talking about getting into the high schools here. But a high school student who completes any course can register with us for free.
Oh, wow.
Any adult who completes the course, their first year, in other words, if they complete the course and they are in their first year of officiating, they get to register with us for free. Wow. That is how powerful this program is. It is an online curriculum. It has you make the calls. It has video packs. It actually has officials with cameras on their GoPros on their head, and they talk about where they're positioned, what they should be looking for. They have to pass quizzes before they can go to the next module. It is state of the art. I'm a big time fan of the individuals that have basically designed this product, and it's blowing up across the country as well. Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Kansas. I mean, it's I think they are now in like 33 states, and we're making a big push to try to get into our high schools. I truly believe, guys, that this is going to have a positive impact on us immediately. But it's even going to have a greater impact on us from a sustainability as we move forward 5 years from now, 8 years from now, 12 years from now, because we need to get young people into officiating and into umpiring. And if we don't do that, this is always going to be a fight and a struggle.
Kevin, any questions, follow up on those?
No, obviously that's extremely important stuff, and both sound like great initiatives.
Absolutely.
I'll add 2 things onto that real quick. We have 3 high schools in the state. I will not mention their names. 2 of those high schools are piloting it this spring for us. Okay. One of those has already purchased 71 more seats outside of the 5 freebies they were given. Another school has purchased 50 more seats, and they're gonna incorporate it into their summer school. And we have a school district in the St. Louis area that just in the past 2 weeks purchased 270 seats for the fall semester. That is where I think we're going to start making headways, is when we can get young people realizing not only can they do a good job of officiating, but they can make money. Yeah. It's the best way to make money when you're young, going to college. It's the best part-time job ever. So needless to say, you can tell I'm kind of excited about it.
Absolutely. That is awesome. I love that news. And Kenny, make sure you email me all that information where, or just what's the, do you guys have a specific space on the Misha site where people can go right now to see this?
Not right now, and we're in that process. My
Okay.
smart people that I work with and the smart people at RefReps, they have been in communication because, yes, we are going to have a link on our officials tab on the website that can take individuals, and again, not just students, but anyone, directly to the RefReps program. And we will also be tied into them from a technology standpoint. So if Kevin Mulder finishes the baseball course and Kevin goes to our website, the minute Kevin enters his information, our system's going to go, oh, Kevin Mulder completed the RefReps program, and therefore his charges to register his first year are free. It's a zero charge. So we're in the process of that. I actually am hoping within the next 2 weeks. The reason for that is we currently have high school students through the pilot program that are completing courses, and they're licking their chops to get registered for next year. And we have to make sure that we technology-wise, we're ready for that move. But I'll get you that information, Brian. I'd be happy to.
Absolutely. And folks, I want everybody to understand how important this is. And the last year, I enjoy officiating. Always have. I like umpiring. My schedule has, with what we're doing now, has not been the best to umpire. And the last year I did it is when that crunch did, and I did 9 junior varsity games by myself, and that's in this area. So that's how dire this had become, and they were canceling freshman games that year because they couldn't get officials to those games, and most of the time you know, I know how difficult it is to officiate with 2 guys on the field. It's a lot of work. You know, and when you're standing there by yourself, you look at the coaches and you do your best. Coach, I'm going to do my best to get in place and to the coach's credit, they would still come out and question here or there, but for the most part, you go, yeah, Blue, I saw you. No worries. It's a close call. It is what it is. So I love this thought process. I think it's necessary for us to continue to grow. I love it, Kenny. I think this is awesome. The other part of this that we want to talk about is, as I was listening, and this has been a while back because I contacted you about this. You guys are doing some different things evaluation-wise for officials, especially for the state championships. Can you kind of give everybody a little bit of information on that?
Well, I think the big thing we're talking about is the forever program that we've had in place, the rating system, the evaluation system, where the coaches are mandated by this office to evaluate every official, every umpire that they have at the varsity level for every regular season contest. Now, we all know that no system is a perfect system, and the reason it's not perfect is because it has what I call a human element in it, and that human element has an emotional component to it. And so I think there are a lot of good things that come from the rating system. I do think eventually it bears out. The best officials in the state are going to surface to the top of the ratings, and the ones who really, really struggle are going to float down towards the bottom. But with that said, it is still flawed. It's not a perfect system. And through the years, we've recognized that. Anywhere from someone receiving an evaluation for doing a game they never umpired, especially if your last name is Smith or Brown. It's pretty easy for the coach to type in Smith and pick the first one off the list, even though there are 120 of them in our state. And so we understand, and since our office is not privy to who works regular season contests, it is what it is. So that's one of the things. The other thing that has always been kind of something in the back of my mind is the rating system, without a doubt, has an emotional component to it. And when I say an emotional component, we tell our coaches, do not rate the officials earlier than 24 hours after the contest, and we prefer you do it within 72 hours after the contest. All right, that's one thing. And usually and we do that to try to at least minimize some of the emotion that's into the evaluation itself. That works for many coaches, because many coaches understand why we do what we're doing, and they take it seriously, and they do a great job of it. Even if they think an umpire was not very good, great. That's what the system is for. But not all coaches had that maturity about them, and they didn't look at things that way. And so they obviously saw it as an opportunity to get back, to drive a point home, to release their frustrations. And therefore, that becomes part of the flawed process, that emotional component. We also have coaches that wait till the end of the year, and then they go back and they evaluate all 28 baseball games they had. Well, in late May, how are you going to remember number one, not only how good they were, but who they were in your first game in March? That's kind of hard. There's been a lot of stuff happen in those last 7 or 8 weeks. And so we're getting rid 100%. We are eliminating the rating system. It is non-existent beginning next year. It's not going to come into play. The coaches will not do it. The officials will not see the ratings and then try to figure out which coaches gave them the bad ones because they're mad. Here's the other thing that kind of led us into. I'll kind of tell you a backstory. This is how we kind of got to this point. We have a new executive director, Dr. Jennifer Ruckstad, and we basically had a retreat this summer. And since she's new and she wanted to get to know the assistant executive directors, in our retreat, we all wrote down what we thought our major obstacle or the major thing that we needed to deal with moving forward as an association. And across the board, guess what came up? Sportsmanship. Sportsmanship, right? Or should we say the lack of? And so as we're talking about the things that we can do to make sportsmanship better, the thing that kept sticking in my mind is, how many officials do we have out there that are hesitant to hold the line from a sportsmanship standpoint based upon the fear of repercussions from the coach if they penalize a player or their team or the coach themselves? So I basically raised my hand and said, I'm going to offer the first thing that we need to do. We need to get rid of the rating system. Why? Well, because we have officials out there that are hesitant to make sure that people are behaving in a way that is acceptable by society. And right now we have if you hesitate for 1 second, if you even think about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me if I do this, that's a flawed system. And so we decided at that time to get rid of the rating system. With that said, here's the next question. What are you going to do in replace of it, to replace it? We're not replacing it with anything, but we currently have been doing something for years and years and years. Oh, and by the way, let me add something else about the rating system. The rating system, gentlemen, is information from the previous year. So right now, Doug Fessler is working on his selection for his baseball postseason umpires. Since they're not due until early June, the ratings that he is looking at is the ratings from the 2022 spring season. That's a year old, right?
Yeah.
So we all know in time, someone's opinion about someone else can change in a year. I may have been very frustrated with an umpire I had last spring, but I've had that umpire twice this year, and he or she has made great strides and improvements, and I think they're a lot better. Problem is, I don't have to rate them until the season's over with. So we have the emotional component as a problem. We have the fact that it's old data. That's a problem. And so what we're doing is we're actually going to accent and emphasize more what we call the recommendation, non-recommendation process that the coaches have to do whenever they enter their district entries in order to be eligible for postseason. Right now, it's optional. Any coach in the state can either recommend or non-recommend officials and umpires for their postseason competition. And even when they recommend them, they can recommend them for specific levels. The district level, what we call the state series level, which would be sectionals, quarterfinals, or championship level, which would be the highest level that you can reach. Now, before, we probably paid more attention to the non-recommendation portion of that, simply because we wanted to avoid conflicts in our postseason assignment process. We still will do that, but we now have the ability to quantify. When I say quantify, I'm talking about the ability to measure the value of someone's recommendations. How many times were they recommended for the championship level? How many times were they recommended for the state series level? How many times were they recommended for the district level? We have the ability to score that. And by the way, that recommendation, non-recommendation, does not have an emotional component to it like the rating system does. The recommendation, non-recommendation is when a coach sits down, looks at all the umpires they've had this year, and they say, okay, which ones would I like to have if I played in a state championship game? Boom, these 4. Which ones would I be okay with if we were in the quarterfinals? These 12. Which ones am I okay with if we're playing in the districts? These 24, whatever the case is. I'm just throwing numbers out there.
Sure.
Okay. But it doesn't have an emotional component. Now, hopefully what it does have, it's actually the coach's view and perspective of the quality of the official, not the fact that they were mad at him because they called a third strike in the bottom of the 7th inning 2 weeks ago, and I had to rate him, and I'm going to get him back for that. And so, and the other thing is, like we mentioned a while ago, the rating system is a year old. Well, this is how I felt about an umpire last year, but this year I've had them and they're better, and I'm okay if they're in my district tournament game. And so we have the ability to quantify the recommendation, non-recommendations, and so we're going to put more weight into that, along with what we've always done with observers' evaluations, local associations' recommendations, things of that nature.
Kevin, any thoughts? You've been
No, I love that. That makes a lot of sense. And what time of year are you guys going to do the recommendations?
Well, we have to do it in time. Yeah, that's a great question, Kevin. Obviously, we have to do it early enough so that we can get the information, collect it, and then utilize it in the selection process. So I would say in baseball, we're probably talking about halfway through the season. We will need that information. But here's the beauty of the recommendation, non-recommendation, which we also had this, that doesn't exist in the rating system. If I think Kevin Mulder is one of the best 3 umpires in my area and has been for 4 or 5 years, but this year I have not had him yet on one of my games, that's irrelevant. I can still recommend him for the postseason. I may not have him for 2 or 3 more weeks, but coaches know who they feel are the strong umpires and they understand what level that they think they can officiate at. So I think it's going to be a lot more valuable to us. I think it's going to be a lot more beneficial for us. And so we're looking forward to making that change.
Now, I do have a question, and it's kind of a bigger picture thing, but when you're assigning the umpires, especially in the later rounds, the sectionals and the state championships, do you guys take the guys that are recommended and maybe put let's say a Kansas City umpire on a St. Louis game, a St. Louis umpire on a Columbia, Missouri game to get the quality umpires from those regions, but you throw them in front of teams that haven't seen them? Is that something that's in play, or do you like to keep them kind of region by region?
So, Kevin, some of that depends on how deep we are getting into the postseason process. So when we look at the districts, obviously our district umpires are going to, and let's talk baseball now. So our district umpires are going to come from the geographic area that represents the teams that are playing in that district. Okay. Well, now we go to the sections of the quarterfinals. Well, on the front side, you don't exactly know which teams are going to be coming out of the districts to advance to the next round. All right. So you kind of have to make a pop shot guess as to, all right, whereabouts are these 2 districts from? And then where should those umpires come from? So when it comes to the sectionals and the quarterfinals, those umpires are still going to have a much more of a geographic representation to the districts or the sectionals that are feeding into those rounds. Although it is getting broader and bigger, so there, it's going to stretch out a little bit. Now, when we get to the state championships, 100% without a doubt, we try to, and I always make sure I do not use the word remove. You cannot remove means 100% foolproof, and that's not possible because you've selected your umpires many, 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 many weeks before the postseason begins. Okay, but we try to minimize conflicts to the best of our ability. What does minimizing conflicts mean? Well, if we have a St. Louis school playing a Springfield school in the championship, we better not have a St. Louis umpire on the game unless we also have a Springfield umpire on the game. And then the third umpire can be neutral.
That's fair.
The larger classes, that is more difficult to do because the larger classes, majority of our schools are going to come from the more populated areas, and that's where our umpires are going to come from. Smaller schools gives us a lot more flexibility. So it's no different in basketball. I just got finished basketball here about a month ago. And so in basketball, my dream scenario is that all three officials would have no connection to either one of the two schools. But when I get to the big class, I find it very common that if St. Louis is playing Kansas City, I'm going to have a St. Louis official, a Kansas City official, and a Columbia official as kind of the neutral third person. Simply because based upon my inventory of officials, I can't avoid all conflicts. And so as long as we're keeping it fair and balanced, and when the two coaches walk out on the floor, they feel like things are fair, that there's a balance out there, we have no issues. And so that's kind of how we approach the postseason.
And yeah, and speaking on an official side, we have to be professional. It's not about sides. It's not about saying, I'm from this area and I'm from that area. So, you're there to officiate a game. It has nothing to do geographically, school, this, that. And you hope, the official isn't a graduate of that school. That'd be
Exactly.
I always think about some of those things. I think it's interesting, but I want to finish this segment, Kenny, if you don't mind, with one thing. We were talking about recommendations and all those things, and you're talking about sportsmanship. I think it's interesting, and I don't see officials using some of the things that are at their disposal to quell some of these things. You'll see an official pop somebody from a game, go automatically to ejection, rather than the tools that at hand. You can put a coach on the bench. You can same with a player. You have tools at your disposal before you have to go to ejection to quiet a situation, and use them professionally. Coach, it's the last word. I don't want to put you on the bench, but that's where you're going.
Exactly.
Relegate them to the dugout, and then if it continues, then you can toss somebody. And I think if we create and use the tools available rather than just ejecting people automatically just in that moment, unless it's egregious, there are egregious things that just automatic ejection. But I think that would go a long way personally to helping some of those situations. Agreed?
I agree 100%. And we have that conversation on this end with all of our officials across the board about use the tools that you have. Your job number one is to try to cool things off, to try to calm things down. And so in baseball, let's use the warning first. Let's first of all, let's verbally communicate.
Right.
Then from that may come a warning. Now we restrict them to the dugout. And if the behaviors don't get better, we can go to an ejection. Needless to say, there are ejections that what we call automatics. They're automatics. They're the magic word, the magic action physically. I mean, there are some things that you have to. In all sports, you just go immediately to the ejection. But let's face it, that doesn't happen very often.
No.
It's usually a process where the temperature just rises and rises to the point. And so use those tools. And that is probably the most challenging part of officiating. You can if you have a good eye, you got a good feel for balls and strikes. You got bang plays at the plate. Time is going to allow you to get better in those just because you see more plays. But the real challenge for new officials is it's the human side of it. It's the relationship side of it. It's the conflict resolution. And the best officials and the best umpires, they completely understand that there is no way emotionally that a coach is ever going to be on the same level that they are, and they shouldn't be. Coaches should not be on the same level emotionally as what umpires are. Umpires are neutral, right down the middle, don't care who wins or loses. Players and coaches, they have a vested interest.
Right.
They have an interest in the outcome, and therefore they are going to be emotional. Once you accept that as an umpire, once you accept the fact that they are emotional, now you learn how to deal with that emotion. And that emotion isn't always bad, by the way. A lot of that emotion is outstanding and it's awesome, but you do have to learn how to basically manage it. And that's always the challenge for new officials. Definitely the challenge for new officials and a challenge sometimes for all people. Let's face it, none of us like conflict. I don't like conflict.
Right.
But if I'm going to continue doing what I do, I have to spend time thinking about it, processing it, figuring out what to do, and trying to reach across the aisle a little bit, and letting people know that I do care about how they feel. It's just sometimes I can't do anything about it because I saw what I saw, and that's the call.
That's a great perspective, Kenny, and to kind of circle back to the state championships and the larger schools. I was just thinking about, it's not the umpire or the official's integrity, with getting a Kansas City guy, a St. Louis guy, and a Columbia. It's more of just the perception of being in a dugout of, hey, I know that guy, he's a St. Louis guy, or hey,
Exactly.
I'm having to battle all St. Louis umpires and I'm the Kansas City team, the deck's stacked against me. It's more of just settling the nerves of the players and coaches, isn't it?
Spot on. Kevin, you could not have said that any better. Absolutely. I tell people all the time, when whether it's a coach, a player, or a general fan, whenever they think that an official has it out for a particular player, has it out for a particular team, I always tell them, you're giving officials way too much credit. We're not that smart. We literally are not that smart. I cannot sit here in a basketball game and we have a bang, bang play on a rebound. I am not smart enough to figure out, number 32 in red. Yeah, in the first quarter, they looked at me the wrong way. I'm going to pop this kid. I'm not that smart. I can't keep that much information in my mind, nor am I that quick reacting. I have to react based upon what I see. What I see is what I see. Now, but you're right, and that's to your point, Kevin. Perceptions become reality. And so if we have a close play and it goes one way or the other, that's when people start trying to play connect the dots. We have a St. Louis umpire, and that player was called safe, even though I think he was out or she was out on a St. Louis against the team that's playing the St. Louis team. So I'm going to play connect the dots here, and that's why. Well, again, we're giving the umpire way too much credit. They're not that smart. They're not that good. They simply call what they see and have to live with those results. But that is a great point because and we deal with that in our championships. When the championships are with, we get emails. Hey, we had a football situation last year. All of a sudden on social media, the official was from the same hometown as the team that won the state championship. And there was a controversial call with about a minute to go in the game. Well, that official was not from the same hometown. They were from 96 miles away. But the word got out and everybody thought, here we go. This crew was from the same hometown of this team. And how does Mich allow that to happen? So we had to take some time to put that fire out. But yes, you're exactly right. And that's why we kind of do that. And like I said, we don't remove the conflicts, but we have an obligation to minimize them to the best of our ability based upon the inventory of umpires and officials that we have scheduled and do the best that we can.
I love the fact. I love that because I think that's so true. And as a young official, I got to where if there was a close call, I expected a coach to come out and talk to me. It was an expectation because if you don't expect that, then the coach is not doing their job. That's what I always thought. If you got a bang bang play, coach is going to come out, ask you, what'd you see? This is what I saw, coach. He tagged him on the hip before his foot got there. Okay. Well, I didn't see it that way. Fine. That's your, great, fantastic. But that's what I saw. And so these are all things that are necessary because early on when I first started umpiring, I was doing youth baseball. There was a hullabaloo between a couple of youth coaches, and it was on me. And I went and told the head of officials there, I said, it was my fault. I allowed that to happen. as an official. I took responsibility for it, because if I would have done things better and the right way, but it was a learning experience, as you said, Kenny, you take those things and you have to learn from them. How do you manage those situations better? And especially at the youth level, with it's even, it kind of gets a little kookier even at that. So I think these are great opportunities for young officials. If you're watching, understand and know that, and that's why I think this program that you have with these people with the cameras and the things and talking about this stuff, helping them understand and maybe preconceive a few situations that you're going to be in. I think those are great. It's fantastic. So we're looking forward to it. Kenny, as always, you're retiring. You're done in June, right?
That is correct.
Do you guys have somebody who's taking over?
Yes. Her name is Tony Hill. She's going to be outstanding. In fact, I'll make sure that I connect her with you guys when this is all said and done. I think you'll enjoy conversations with her, and I know she's chomping at the bit, ready to get in here and get working. And I will spend some time with her this summer to kind of get her acclimated. But she'll do an amazing job. She's a very high quality, high level individual. She's a superintendent of a school district. I mean, she has a lot of qualities that is going to fit into this role very well. So we're excited about her coming, and I'm excited about slowing down a little bit.
I'm sure you are. We definitely have to get you back on, though, and I really have enjoyed these conversations with you over the past few years, and really do appreciate your time and what you do, Kenny.
Well, I thank you guys. I think what you do with this podcast is outstanding. When everybody gets along, things are a lot more fun. So we all make efforts to try to get players and coaches and officials and fans to kind of see things a little bit of the same way. And at the end of the day, just be respectful and understanding of each other, and understand that everybody deserves to be treated with dignity. Some people are very good at what they do, some not so much. I know coaches get mad at inconsistencies in umpires and officials. I asked the coach this question: are all your players the same? The answer is no. Now you're teaching all of them the same thing every day, but some of them just pick it up a little quicker and are a little bit better than others. And so that it's no different in officiating. It's no different in teaching. It's no different in banking. It doesn't matter what the profession is. I truly believe everybody tries to do their best at that moment, at that time, in that mindset. And so we'll all be better off if we just understand that and do the best we can and move on to the next play.
That's good stuff right there, folks. That's good stuff. Kenny, thanks for your time. Do appreciate it. Wish you well in retirement, and let's keep in touch, and we look forward to talking to Tony Hill in the future.
Brian and Kevin, thank you guys very much. I've really enjoyed being on here. It's been a treat. So I wish I could continue doing it, but let's get in touch. Maybe we can do it another time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Folks, Kenny Seifert, head of officials at Misha, at least through June. We're going to jump into our other segment here with the GAC and some other things coming up right now.
So we opened up in 2019, and basically there was a void in the area. I mean, we saw that there was an opportunity to have a retail store where people could come in and actually touch and feel the tangible object that they're buying.
All right, folks, we appreciate Kenny joining us today, and Kevin and I now are going to switch some gears. We had some really good baseball around the state. Kevin, GAC is man. There's some good baseball all across the GAC. Had some really good games yesterday and a couple of more upsets. Howell Central takes down Fort Zumwalt West 5-2, and there's that
Wayne
kid
Harris
again.
with the gem.
Right.
I'll tell you what, Zumwalt West has had a rough go of it the past 2 weeks, running into just high-end pitching. It was, 2 weeks ago they saw Hatchman, and then this past Tuesday they ran into Wayne Harris. They that's just tough sledding there.
I'm gonna use this term, as we from the any given Tuesday.
Right, there you go.
It's the truth, man. Howell lost won a squeaker against Francis Howell North. Is 3-2.
I think Jackson Vaughn had a walk-off for Howell, but had to eke one out. And you know what? The Zumwalt West and the Howells of the world, you're going to get everyone's best shot every single time you're on the field. So that's the tough thing about being at the top of the food chain, is you are going to get, everyone's going to have that game circled and be ready to go for you.
And our Friday night lights game, extra innings, North Point. First time, I know you've seen this young man, Jack Cowling, with North Point. That's a live arm, Kevin.
Live arm, big physical kid with a lot of upside. His best days are still ahead of him, but that's exciting that he, has had a performance like that on Friday.
Absolutely. But Troy Buchanan won it. They got the freshman Twellman playing well there. Cam Casso leading that team. I really like that kid. Plays great defense. And the catcher for Troy Buchanan, Jackson Ryder, that kid behind the plate is really good. He's got a great head about him. They won that walk-off there. They beat Timberland 2-1. And as far as I know, I haven't looked. I should have before we talked here. But I would imagine Hatchman was on the mound. No,
he was not.
Okay.
No, he was not.
So there you go, folks. But still, that's a good win. 2-1. Troy Buchanan playing well.
Absolutely. And Timberland has been rolling a little bit here. So, Troy has a couple nice wins this year. They're putting some things together. Good for them.
I like the big righty we saw at the Baseball Classic, Ryan McDonald. And he hits well too. So they've got some kids. They can make a little noise. They're right there. So the GAC South yesterday at a little upheaval, and then the big one in Class 5 yesterday, Washington, Zumwalt South winning 2-0. Carter Cox threw a complete game. That's a couple of heavyweights in Class 5 division right there.
Yes, it is, and Carter Cox is starting to hit his stride a little bit, and if that gives South a legit number one there, they're going to be a true handful down the stretch.
Absolutely, district play to getting into the state championships. South is really starting to. We're going to have South next week against East in the GAC game of the week. So I'm looking forward to that. Trentman, though, equal to the task. That Grant Trentman at Washington, we need to watch him. That kid can pitch.
Washington's starting to stack up a really nice record. Last I looked, I know they've played since then. They were about 15-5. So they're putting together a really nice season.
Absolutely. And as we're recording this on Wednesday, I know it comes out on Thursday, folks, so you'll see. But remember, tomorrow we'll have the GAC standings out. We'll have a new set of power rankings out. that will come out for the GAC. I'm enjoying doing that for the first time. I've never done something like that, but it's a lot of fun watching these teams. And, you know, everything's subjective, of course, except the standings.
Well, yeah.
But, and then yesterday, another one. Our GAC game of the week is so fun. The GAC is so good and stacked with pitching. Yesterday, we go out to Liberty. Holt and Liberty, they're having, you know, up and down seasons, sitting around that 500 mark, both teams and whatnot, and they've had their ups and downs, but my goodness. These two lefties yesterday, Aiden Cole and Dalton Hosack, just befuddled everybody. It was something else, Kevin. They both had that curveball that goes right to the back right foot or back foot of a right-handed hitter. Fastball runs away from the bat on the right-handed hitter and runs in on the lefty, and it was all working. It was so much fun to watch these guys, and I got a great story for you here, okay? Aiden Cole, I'm watching this. He was our player of the game for Liberty. 6 innings. I think he had 8 Ks, 1 hit, 1 base on balls, and, you know, and just 1 run. And it wasn't even an earned run. So I'm seeing some folks, and I saw Bill Cole, who is a gentleman. His son Jordan played for me back when my son was 15 for the Stallions. Had Joey Siegler coaching with me, and Jacob Holt-Greavy, both young men, good around here. And Jordan was my shortstop. Went to Liberty when it was first opening. And I'm watching all this, and I bring him over, and that's Jordan Cole's little brother. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I didn't even make the connection. His mom, Nancy, standing there. She goes, you didn't make the connection. I said, no, I didn't. But here's a young man that played for me when he was 15, and I'm watching his younger brother now dealing on the mound. That was a lot of fun when you come to that place, and that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy doing this and seeing all these kids. And Jordan's having a lot of success. Went to Mizzou, and you know, so it was cool, man.
Coming full circle for you. Very nice.
Yeah. And we got a chance to talk with Aiden, and you've seen Aiden.
Absolutely. Yeah, Aiden's a promising young left-hander and can really spin that breaking ball, and he's got good stuff.
And he sure showed it off. Hosack, complete game, 10 Ks, 2 hits, no runs. He was on everything. He had command of his fastball. He had command of that curveball, and when he's on like that, man, he is really hard to hit.
We've seen that from him before. He's got a lot of moxie, a lot of mound presence, and great feel for 3-pitch mix. And he's a tough left-hander for sure.
Absolutely. That was a 1-0 ball game, our GAC game of the week, and it was a lot of fun. So, folks, if you didn't get to see the game, I go check it out. Watch these two guys throw. It was a lot of fun watching that GAC game of the week. Kevin, you were down in Rogersville, correct?
Yeah, I went on a trip to the Springfield area the first couple days of the week, and so there's some great baseball down there. On Monday, saw our number 8 large school, Glendale, versus Branson, and it didn't disappoint. It was a pitcher's duel, 1-0. Glendale came out with a victory to continue to roll after Tuesday's game that moved them to, I believe, 18-3. And then yesterday, I saw our number 1 small school, Logan Rogersville, take on Springfield Catholic, our number 2 school. And Logan Rogersville came up with a big win, 12-6, and saw a lot of Logan Rogersville started a Brody McNeil heading to Missouri State, and he was dominant last night. And they opposed Ben Smith for Springfield Catholic, righty going to Mizzou. So great matchup. Curry Sutherland for Logan Rogersville had a 3-hit game, including a 3-run homer in the 7th. So a lot of fun, a lot of great play, and it was neat to get down there and see some of the better teams in the Springfield area.
Absolutely. I love the opportunities we're getting, and I love that because we were talking yesterday. You go, I'm in Rogersville. We're going to watch some baseball. It's like, cool. And I was like, that's great because I love the fact that you're down there. You get to see that because we're not seeing that up here, and we don't hear much about those teams, do we?
No, we don't. And, we talk about that. It's always fun to, sit here and talk about, who we think is, put the teams in order or whatnot. But you really don't know until they play each other. So it helps give you some perspective to watch different teams from different parts of the state and kind of gives you a little better feel for what's going on.
Absolutely.
I will say this, phenomenal parks. Glendale has a very nice setup, as does Springfield Catholic. And I told both of their coaches this. They did a great job with their facilities. And, they're certainly the best facilities in the state are in that region. I'm not saying, like Chaminade, for example, is probably the best facility in the state. But I'm talking about as a collective area, that Springfield area, for my money, I would have to say they got the best baseball facilities in the state.
Now, I definitely, the only one I know of, I've umpired at Springfield Catholic, and that's a stadium, right?
Yes, and that's the thing. They're not fields. They are stadiums. They have a press box. They have warning tracks. They have a real outfield wall. They have nice scoreboards. They have real dugouts. It's a cool environment.
Yes.
They do a great job with it. They got a PA guy. They got concessions going. It's an event.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm starting to see that more because we saw that, Troy, they have a PA guy. They're announcing their players. When we were out at Liberty last night, same thing. They have the PA guy. They're announcing their talk. So I think that's growing more and more, and I hope that continues. And I hope, we're able to press and push that a little bit more, with what we're doing with the GAC as far as our game of the week and things of that nature. And we got the game coming up, the Friday Night Lights, this week. So, if you get a chance to tune it in, if you can't get out, we're going to be out at Baldwin. Great facility, great old-time park out there. We're going to be out there live streaming the game. So there are some venues, but they're not high school venues.
True.
Right?
Very true. Yes.
And I'm hoping that as baseball's growing, and this is one of the things I've noticed, Kevin, with PBR, and you're out doing, you're sending, you're doing, is I'm noticing an uptick in information players. It seems to be growing and growing and growing, and I think that's just because of the awareness of the talent and the teams and the growth of the talent. Would I be correct in that?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a lot of things, but you're 100% right.
There you go. So, and that's a great follow. Make sure you check out Kevin. His at is that's his PBR Molder, but PBR Missouri. Make sure you're following. They do some great stuff. That's where you can see their rankings for the state. We'll bring up the Misha ones, or not Misha, but the Missouri coaches. I like the Missouri coaches poll, and gives you different perspectives because that's a coaches poll and what coaches are saying about teams, as opposed, and some of those coaches may not even see some of those teams. Am I correct?
Yes. So that's the interesting thing about the coaches poll is they know the teams they play. The Kansas City schools might not have a great idea of the St. Louis schools or the Springfield schools. And But it is a good perspective, and they do theirs by class, obviously.
Obviously, exactly. And I think it just reminds me of the college coaches poll, because how many of those East Coast teams are staying up till midnight to watch some of the West Coast teams?
So college baseball is a little bit different now, especially nowadays, because so much of our college baseball is now televised or streamed, so you can watch a lot of the games now. I know I certainly enjoy watching college baseball, and it's incredible. You can watch almost anyone in Division I baseball now with the streaming that they have.
Point in fact, ESPN Plus, I watched Lindenwood and Tennessee Tech just not too long ago on ESPN.
There you go. And 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been possible.
No, not even close. So, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is Lindenwood.
Right. Well, yeah. And in Lindenwood's case, 5 months ago, that wouldn't have been possible because they just turned Division I. So.
Exactly, Kevin. Exactly. So, as you're going through this, Kevin, I know you guys will be throwing your rankings. You had your rankings. They'll come out again. When do you post them every week, but it's at the end of the week. Am I correct?
No, we post ours on Monday.
On Monday. So your view as we're going through this from where the rankings are, who's your top three in Class 6 right now?
Right now we have Liberty North is in Blue Springs South, followed by Zumwalt West and Howell. Those are 1, 2, 3, 4 in that order. Columbia Rockbridge is the number 5 team. So those guys have been consistently up at the top most of the year. Zumwalt West is the one team that's kind of charged up the rankings, but Liberty North, Blue Springs South, Francis Howell, that has not caught anyone off guard, and they haven't disappointed. They've been rolling this year.
And we're going to get a surprise in districts. I think like last year, Lindbergh, right? Getting where they at,
and some of it's not a surprise. I mean, the rubber's going to meet the road. Howell and Zumwalt West are in the same district, and not to just stop it there. It goes deeper than 2 teams. But point in case, last night I was at Logan Rogersville versus Springfield Catholic. They're in the same district. That's our number 1 and number 2 small schools in the state, and they're in the districts. So it's not going to break perfectly. The top 4 teams in the rankings don't all make it to the state championship.
Absolutely.
Or even the Final 4.
So, and I think you basically, is it as far as large schools, because I know you break this up. I know you went down. Glendale is in the top 10 as a Class 5. Who is some of the other Class 5 schools you're looking at there?
Those are my 2 that are my one that is in the top 10. Obviously, Willard has a really good program. Helias Catholic is having a great year in the 5A. So, that we do try to divide it up a little bit, but we are not going to put out 6 polls to do the 1 through 6A.
And I understand. That's why I ask, where do you see some of these teams, because then there's Southeast. How's Festus? Now, I haven't looked down there, but, Festus was a Final 4 team last year, finished second.
They're Zumwalt South, Zumwalt East are both, they're on the on-deck portion of the rankings. So we try to acknowledge them, get them some recognition that they are deserved, and they're in that holding pattern there. If one of these top 10 teams slips up a little bit, we'll move one of the on-deck teams into the top 10.
And another couple teams I think people need to be aware of when we're talking Class 5 is the Camdenton Lakers. They got a good squad down there. Go ahead.
They just had a big win versus Glendale. Camden Lakers, really good team. Caden Durden on the mound, Cam Durden at shortstop. That very strong team. They were a force last year. If you recall, we talked about them last season, all a year older this year. They're going to be a team to be reckoned with come postseason time.
And then lastly, back up in that Kansas City area, Platte County, defending champs 5A, they're playing well as well.
Stumbled a little bit out of the gates to get going, but now have caught their stride. But yeah, defending state champions, certainly not going to count them out.
Absolutely. So a lot of good baseball still to go. We're going to finish out, like I said, the GAC this week. A lot of good games still going on. We'll have the standings and the power rankings out for the GAC on Thursday. We'll have those on the website. You can go to youthbaseballmidwest.com. Having fun doing that. You know, it's interesting. And then Friday night, we'll be out at Baldwin Athletic Association for the Friday Night Lights, our last Friday Night Lights game. I love how we're ending this. Kirkwood, Webster Groves, great rivalry on Friday night. And that Friday night, although it got a little cold out at Troy Buchanan, it was a little breezy. It was a little chilly. Had a great time out there. The fans were great. Great ball game. Looking forward to that again at Baldwin. And then as we finish the season with the GAC game of the week, Zumwalt South versus Zumwalt East. And then the big to-do on May 9th, mark this on your calendar. If you can't get out, watch this game. Jackson versus CBC on May 9th, that Tuesday at 4:30. We're going to be out at Christian Brothers College High School for that one. That's going to be a fun
firepower at that game.
I'm hoping to see some big dudes, right? Think we will?
You'll definitely see them if you show up.
So we've got a pretty good schedule to finish out the end of the season, so we're looking forward to that. Kevin, as always, man, appreciate your time. A lot of good stuff on the show today. Yeah,
it was a fun one.
Absolutely. Folks, if you like what we're doing, please take a moment, hit that subscribe button, hit that dinger next to it, because that's what we do around here. We hit dingers. And I must have hit like 1 million dingers already, Kevin. I don't know. Oh, man, I'm leading the league or something like that. But nonetheless, please, we do appreciate it. We really do appreciate the support and everybody watching. Follow us on our social channels. We got Twitter at YBM_cast and at Youth Baseball Midwest on Facebook and Instagram. So, Kevin, we'll see you out there Friday night, right? It's a big one for you.
Looking forward to it. Oldest rivalry west of the Mississippi, Brian.
I love it. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers. You know what, Kevin? I'm going to give that to you. Because
keep throwing strikes.
There you go. He's a pitcher. He's got that one. That one's, you can feel that, right?
That's right.
And hitters, hit them where they ain't. We'll see y'all next time.